And I think this is not fair because I know Mike's opinion on Zack Snyder's DC stuff, so now I gotta get his opinion on James Gunn stuff. Do you think James Gunn has cemented himself as one of the best comic book movie directors of all time yet? And whether or not that's true for you, what do you think about him taking over for DC?
Yeah, I think he gets what makes characters. He did it with Guardians and then with the Suicide Squad, where people are like, who are these characters? It does not matter. It does not matter who these characters are. If you've heard of the IP before, he's going to inject humanity and groundedness. And like, what he's so good at is Peter and Rocket have a lot of similarities, but they're very distinct individuals. And to be able to thread that, I'm constantly impressed with him, and I've been into James Gunn since I was like in middle school, so maybe I'm 2 in the bag for what he does. But yeah, I think he is one of the better, and that he's not shy. He's not, even though there's like the Star-Lord, that's a dumb name in Volume 1, but he doesn't think comics are stupid. So many of the creators of these movies, and it's going away, are like, why would we wear yellow spandex? And he's just like, no, they're superheroes. They're aliens. It's big and it's bright and it's fun, and it should be, because that is comics. It doesn't need to be all militaristic. And yeah, I think he just gets what makes comics work and can translate to the screen. And I'm ecstatic because to have somebody who I like heading DC. I like DC comics. I have a DC tattoo. I'm a fan, but modern DC movies not a fan of. And I think he's going to shepherd it really well for all those reasons of why is this character different than this. And I'm pumped that he is the writer director of Superman, and I understand the maybe trepidation of, because he goes, his edgelord humor doesn't always work, but I think he will. Superman is a big, goobery, heart of gold character, and I think Gunn is going to have that nailed down in a way we have not seen in a long time. In a way, certainly Zack Snyder always hated and feared Superman, and that's not not what you should take. Like,
yeah.
So
That's great.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So what about you, Dre? Are you excited? Are you looking forward to what Gunn is going to do here?
Oh yeah. Well, DC needs an injection of life, and really kind of has to map out a cohesive world in which these characters can really kind of all not only be in but also interact in. And unfortunately, this is from the Zack Snyder version on. We just really haven't gotten that kind of cohesive vision. And I think James Gunn, if there's any other person to do it, I think James Gunn, I think he is that person. So I think it's really going to be exciting to see what he actually brings to the DC comic space. I'm very excited, and it'll be interesting to see, if the Flash really does well, which Zazzy's hoping for, that's for sure. Do you incorporate some of those things in here? Like, do you completely do away with what came before? Do you incorporate old aspects that may have worked in some way, but need to be taken in a slightly different direction in order to really kind of work on screen? It's going to be a really interesting process to see that go through its kind of development cycle for sure. I'm very interested. He's definitely one of the best. Is he the best? That's tough because you have some good ones up there. I mean, look, Christopher Nolan. He produces Christopher Nolan films, so let's not put him in the same camp as maybe everybody else who has contributed to these comic book films before. Russo brothers, for me, they're really high, but here's the thing, though. Russo brothers had some amazing characters to work with. James Gunn had the Guardians to work with. And before any of the films came out, I mean, anybody looking at that is like, well, that's a little bit unenviable, right? But to he's made them top tier characters now, which is phenomenal. So you got to give it up to him for that, for sure. I'm really excited about his future. I'm really excited about the future of DC. And honestly, Marvel needs a really good DC, because if comic book movies keep coming out with their kind of below average, that'll hurt Marvel as well. And I think it already has. It has happened. So a better DC is a better Marvel. And hey, who knows? You have James Gunn, who's got Kevin Feige's number on speed dial. Who knows what could happen in the future? If these things
Amalgam.
really work. That's right.
Yeah, one of the things that Peter Safran and James Gunn have said is that they are completely open to and in favor of Elseworld stories, which means that not all stories need to be in continuity. And I think that's a really great solution for if the Flash does well, if the Batman does well. We've got another Joker film coming out. None of those things are in continuity with what James Gunn is planning for.
Sure.
And so that's something that Marvel has never announced and has never acted on. And so Marvel has to deal with that. Whatever they're doing, they have to deal with the continuity fact. Whereas I think DC is open to, if somebody brings us a phenomenal script, we'll make it. Which I think is really cool. George, what do you think? Is the DCU off to a good start, and is James Gunn one of the best comic book directors of all time?
I think that he's on that path to becoming, if he is successful with DC, I think that he could actually hold that status for sure, because DC has been struggling for years to find, it's definitely had an identity crisis of like, which route is it going? And I think not one director, not saying that they're good or bad, it's just the visionaries of what to do with these characters. It just hasn't come to the best of what these characters are in cohesive of doing, because in fact I'm a huge fan of DC, believe it or not. I'm more of a Marvel fan than DC, but I feel that why I'm not a bigger DC fan is because of the films. I was a huge fan of the animated series growing up. That's how I can connect with DC over Marvel. But the live action films, that's where it's lost in translation for me. It's like there's no cohesiveness between the characters and the storyline, and it's just I feel that James Gunn will bring something to DC that he only knows. We could only suspect that, this is the route he's going to go. But I think he's going to surprise us and really give us something to say, you know what, I'll pay $20 a ticket to go see this thing. And that's where I feel, as a master storyteller, James Gunn kind of reminds me of another James filmmaker, James Cameron, in the sense where you can give him something and you would think, you know what, people are going to shit all over it. It's going to be crap, but yet people take their butts to the cinemas anyway to see it, because they just have this persona about them that they can take something and make it their own. And you could say, you know what, that is a James Gunn film. This is a James Cameron film. And as Dre had said, this is something that needs to be done. And I agree with both of them, Mike and Dre, that I feel that James Gunn will succeed and really inject something into the DC universe. And quite frankly, it would be probably the most, and Dre and I had touched upon this a little bit after I had seen the film, of them combining a Marvel DC hybrid sort of thing, like intertwining that. I mean, if James Gunn can spearhead that and start that revolution, I mean, talk about a master filmmaker if that could be done. But it has to be done well. It can't just be done just for the sake of doing it. It has to be done with taste.
I know that people keep speculating on if they'll do like a Marvel DC crossover. I can't imagine, and I apologize for everyone listening who wants that, I can't imagine a more stupid decision on their part. Like, why set yourselves up for there to be all kinds of potential problems about, how do you negotiate this character gets enough screen time and that character gets enough screen time and this character can die, that was one of the topics that he and I were talking about, like how does that translate onto the screen, and plus who would have, like, how would you introduce that? Like, does Marvel get the more, screen time over the DC and everything? And as I said, if it is done, it has to be done well, but not before DC adapts its own identity as a forefront against Marvel. I don't want to say against, but give them good, healthy competition. Yeah, and OG says Who Framed Roger Rabbit had that same issue, and that's true. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit was essentially a new character being created, and the environment around wasn't Marvel versus DC. It was like these characters appear, but the film is very focused on these other set of characters that is interacting. And I just think that when you'd be faced with what you'd be faced with is basically you'd have to do an Avengers type of movie where it was just a big bash fighting each other thing. You couldn't really get too deep into it. I think that might be not the kind of movie that I'm excited about in any way, shape, or form. So maybe it's just me. But to answer the question about, I'm super excited about DC. Oh, I almost lost you guys. My screen went to sleep again. I'm super excited about DC, and I do believe at this point, I personally could give James Gunn the award for being the best comic book movie director that I can think of. And that is because I have not seen him whiff. I loved the first Wonder Woman, and I don't know what happened, but 1984 was not good. It was not good. So I was thinking, like, Patty Jenkins is awesome, and then what is this, right? Zack Snyder has whiffed. The Russo brothers maybe have not whiffed on a comic book film, but they have also produced films or directed films that I'm like, I'm not sure.
Right.
James Gunn, like he took David Ayers, who is a great director, took Suicide Squad and did not make a good film. Now, heavily studio messed with, apparently, so we'll give him a benefit of the doubt. James Gunn comes in and makes a phenomenal The Suicide Squad film. Like, again, talk about characters they have Polka Dot Man. It's like ridiculous. Peacemaker, I thought, you know what? There's no way that John Cena can lead not just a comic book film, or a series, but a serious one that has a lot of emotional depth to it. James Gunn comes in and goes, "Sorry, man, this is what I'm giving you," and it's amazing. Like, the guy he's not whiffed. Even Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which we could all say is like maybe not a great film, it's still a good film. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a decent film. And so I have to say, like, I think I would go ahead and give him the title at this point in time. It's his to lose. Christopher Nolan, I agree with you, Dre. He's one of my favorites of all time. I don't think he gets the emotional depth that James Gunn does. Everything he does is a little bit more grounded in like realism from a execution standpoint, while James Gunn is more realism from an emotional standpoint, which is interesting to play between the two.
Very much so.
Yeah, but again, I don't see Christopher Nolan as a comic book movie director the way I do see James Gunn that way. And I think I would still give the title to him. So, man, we'll see. It's a good discussion. I'm excited about DC, but I also appreciate you guys for joining me.